Hello, good afternoon. I'm Catherine Vistreyu, faculty member of the Ateneo Mathematics Department, and I will be the moderator for this afternoon session. The Philippine Council of Mathematics Teacher Educators, MATHTED Inc., is honored to facilitate Professor Po-Shen Loh's lecture on mathematics teaching. Through its more than 25 years of existence, MATHTED envisions itself to provide leadership in improving the quality of mathematics teacher education, facilitate the exchange of information about current research work and teaching methods among mathematics teacher educators, and foster collaboration with members of other recognized mathematical, scientific, and educational institutions. We are pleased to listen to Professor Po-Shen Loh, who will actually conduct this session in a very different way. Um, but I'd also like to make mention that Professor Po-Shen Loh is not only a mathematics researcher and academic, but also engages with the field of mathematics education through his initiatives and advocacies. Before developing his live video teaching platform, Professor Loh created the Daily Challenge, a fun and systematic tour of middle school competition math. Believing that everyone is unique, Professor Loh founded the free website xp.com to broaden the variety of styles of math and science lessons freely available on the internet. Today, it defines many math and science terms, providing multiple styles of explanations for each concept. These are just some of his contributions to the teaching and learning of mathematics. So without further ado, let us welcome Professor Po-Shen Loh once again for the second session of today's event.
Hello. Well, thank you very much for that introduction. It's always very nice to be able to talk to people who also teach. So I want to understand a bit more about this audience. How many people here are in high school or under university, high school or middle school? Okay, got a bunch. How many people here are in university, and that includes undergraduate, bachelor's, and also master's? University. Okay. How many people are done with university and are teaching? Like teachers. Yeah, teachers or professors. Yeah, teachers or professors. Yeah, teaching. Okay. And I'm going to assume that everybody else is done with university and not teaching. Because I think that covers everything. I asked who was before college, who is in university. And also PhDs. I said undergraduate and masters. Are there any people here on PhD? Okay, now I understand. Yeah, now I covered everyone, because then the ones who didn't raise hand, that's older, done with university and not teaching, meaning working in something else, which is great. Okay. Of the people who are teaching, how many of you teach before college, meaning teach high school, middle school, elementary school? Okay, great, welcome. And everyone else, I'm going to assume, teaches college or later. Good. Now, this is this afternoon session where we're going to focus on different ideas in education. This morning, I was talking about ways to use mathematics in real world. Some of you, I think, were in that morning talk, and that was about inventing different ways to solve large-scale problems. In fact, the biggest scale problem that I think about these days that I'm trying to work on is education. So let me go a little bit more into education and start talking a bit about theory. And I want this session to be much more interactive than the last session. So this time I will talk less at the beginning, and then we'll have much more of a flowing discussion as we go. So education. I've been thinking quite a lot about what is my job as a person who is an educator. Recently, the way I've been introducing myself, if I go and speak to some students that I haven't met before, is I say, I think I'm here because my job is to help you achieve your dreams. Now that's interesting, because that's not the same as saying, I'm here to make sure that you know how to do exactly this. But when you open the conversation this way, I use this when I meet people for the first time, when I meet a class for the first time, or meet a group of people I'm talking to for the first time. This, I find, helps because it makes the other people maybe understand that what you're about to do is not to punish them. Right? I mean, there's a reason why we're going to teach you some difficult things. Actually, it's because we want to help you achieve your dreams. In fact, this world is complicated, and so the way to achieve the dreams is to get some skills too. That helps to set up for the next thing, which is that I have a reputation. The reputation that I have when I teach a class is that it will be hard. It will be hard. That doesn't mean you will all fail. It just means that lower scores will pass. Okay? But it will be hard. It will be challenging. It's not going to be something where we're just going to try to get a very high % correct by remembering what was taught. Actually, the teaching style I want to talk about is one which is about being dynamic. Being dynamic. What do I mean by being dynamic? Well, what I mean is sometimes, many times, I learn from the students when I'm teaching the class. And I'm saying this right now because sometimes when we're teaching, the assumption is that we need to already know everything. And we should know a lot. We should know a lot. We should know a lot. But at the same time, if we limit ourselves to being supposed to know everything, that closes the door to discussion. I have learned so much from teaching my students that I wouldn't be able to do what I do today if I had always said we go and do everything this way. Actually, the way I usually teach a class is that I have some problem that I want to discuss, which will have a way of doing the problem, right? There's a way of doing the problem. But instead of just telling you how to do it, I want to have a bit of a conversation about it. For this, let's actually just go and demonstrate. I'm going to borrow your tablet, if that's okay. So now let's take over the screen share. You're the expert in this. How do we flip this? Do I press something? Yes, I do. Then I press share content. Good. I press screen. Something happened. Start broadcast. This will work. I think this will work. Are you seeing a white screen now? No. Now what happened? Oh, please don't touch it. Okay. Oh. Oh, that's even better. Okay, so in that case, stop share. Okay, even better. Ah, okay. Advanced. Let me move this. Oh, wow. Now I have a geometry problem. How to fit everything. I think this will work. So the tape, I think if you can undo the tape, I can push this over. Thank you. Problem solving is fun. Thank you for loaning the tablet. Okay, let's see if we can draw something. So I have a very broad range of people here, okay? And so I'm not about to teach you advanced mathematics. That's not the point. In fact, it's going to be very, very, very basic, but on purpose. It's not because I'm expecting everyone here to learn new mathematics. We're talking about teaching. We're talking about style, okay? So here's an example of something I will sometimes do. If I'm talking to students, I'm trying to think which one to use. I have lots of different questions I like to use. But yeah, if I'm talking to students, if I'm trying to get some secondary school, okay, let's talk about middle school. And I want to focus on middle school on purpose because middle school is actually a very important age. That's an age where you suddenly start to decide if you want to do mathematics or not. In middle school, you're used to seeing all kinds of arithmetic problems, right? So I've been thinking a lot about what are good arithmetic problems to use. And of course, when I teach a university class, it's not this. It's significantly higher, but it's the same analog. There's something very special about this arithmetic problem. You can do lots of addition problems. You can ask someone 53 plus 21 plus 7 plus 2. That is keeping you busy. It's a problem that you'll be busy with. Oh, this problem you'll also be busy with. Okay, you'll also be busy with. You have to do some addition. Oftentimes I'll go and ask, hey, students, how do we do this? Now, it's fun when you ask students how you do this, because you get lots of different answers. I'm not going to ask you guys to do it, because somehow it's not so convenient here. There's a big room. But usually, if there's a regular-sized classroom, then hands need to go up. By the way, if no hands are going up, the next thing I say is, don't worry. Just say something. You'll never be wrong. You'll never be bad. If you say something wrong, that's still better than saying nothing. Actually, in my classroom, we make it okay to say ideas that are wrong. My job is to go and help you. In fact, my job is to go and help you turn your ideas into solutions. So, some people will sometimes say, okay, we did it. I did 1 + 3 is 4. And then 4 + 5 is 9. And then 9 + 7 is 16. And 16 + 9 is 25. Okay, that's one way. That's one way. But then usually what I will do is I'll say, did anyone have other ways? I'm emphasizing that when you're doing teaching, if you can help as many students as possible think that their ideas are valuable, then you get somewhere. Sometimes people, by the way, make mistakes. I mean, if somebody told me, oh yeah, I tried to add these together, and okay, now I need to see, how do you make a new page? There's no new page. That's fine, we'll erase this. Sometimes people will make a mistake. Maybe they take 7 + 9 and they get 15, right? The way I've found, if you say wrong, the student doesn't want to say more ideas. By the way, the style of this teaching is to make a lot of conversation. I want to make a lot of dynamic conversation going back and forth between the audience and me, which is the opposite of what's happening right here. But that's only because you guys are at different age levels, so everyone is feeling a little bit shy about answering primary school or secondary school questions, right? So that's why, but I'm doing this because if I talked about the college level one, that I would lose some parts of the audience, and so that I wanted to choose something that we can all use. But you see, if you see 15, what do you say? Well, you say, oh, it's close. It's close. You don't say wrong. You say it's close. And you say, can anyone else help? It's really close. Can anyone else help? Anyone else help means I want more people talking. Actually, my measurement of how I'm doing is whether or not there are a lot of different people talking. If it's always the same person talking, then I say, it's great. I know you know how to do this. Can we give other people a chance? Okay, but that's the measurement of the health of the brainstorming session. Okay, right. So we do all of these things. We have some fun, and we find different ways of getting the solution. And eventually people get 25. And of course, you discuss other ways, because sometimes the way people do this question is they say, well, take the 3 and the 7 together and take 10. 10 is a nice number. And then you could go and take the 1 and the 9 together and get another 10. Then you add 10 and 10 and 5, you get 25. By the way, I think that it's very interesting to discuss many ways, because what we actually are teaching in math, this also helps me to explain to people why the answer alone is not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the path. One of the more useful things in math is to be able to find that there are 2 paths that go to the same place. That's what eventually in math you use to write proofs. That's the whole point. Also, when I grade my exams or grade my homeworks, I always want reasons. The answer is not enough. Answer with no reason loses a lot of points. Need to have reason. If the reason is right and the answer is wrong at the end, you get most of the points. If the reason is wrong and the answer is right, you get almost nothing. Actually, you usually just get nothing. I actually give nothing. I give nothing if the reason is all wrong and the answer is right. There's nothing, okay? But as we look at this, there's a reason I chose this question, though. You see, all of this, we have some discussion, and then, of course, after having this discussion, then the other fun part becomes, why did we choose this question? Well, then, that becomes the art of choosing good questions. In fact, whenever I teach, I take the concepts that I'm teaching, and I create questions that I think help to do something more with those concepts than you would have expected. How to find these types of things? Oftentimes, you find these in math competitions, in fact. And it's because I have background doing that, so I pick them up myself. But as you're doing teaching, I think one of the things that, who knows, maybe even can be done to contribute to the ecosystem of teachers is to suggest good problems for people to use. Because oftentimes people think of curriculum. I have a maybe strange way of thinking about curriculum, which is that curriculum is the concept list, but it is also the choice of the very special problem inside each concept. Because for me, the concept is very beautiful if you choose the right problem. This concept might be something as simple as just adding numbers. But oh wait, look, there's something interesting here. That's if you had 5 of them. What if you had 6 of them? 6 of them, meaning, of course, at this point, I'm usually asking the students, is there a reason I wrote 11? There's a pattern. Because, by the way, math is more than following techniques. Math is actually about observing patterns. I think that one of the sad things is sometimes people don't have the pattern part of the math education. They have the, okay, how do I do this? Okay, put it in, done. But there's a pattern. What's the pattern? The pattern is that these are the odd numbers. And plus 11, how you do this? Well, different people have different ways. Some people just do the whole addition again, and you say, okay, good for you. You didn't make a mistake. Other people say, oh, you already got the 25. So if that was 25, you just have to add 11, 36. And then you can try another one. 1 plus 3 plus 5 plus 7 plus 9 plus 11 plus 13. And you get, okay, doing the same thing, 49. Around this stage, I usually start to ask the students, yes, we've been doing practice. We've been doing arithmetic. We've been doing pure arithmetic practice, right? This might be suitable for grade 6, something, or like coming back from summer vacation. But is there a pattern? There's something going on. There's something special about the numbers on the right side. I also do this because if you're teaching students, sometimes they're used to just following a procedure and getting an answer. They're not necessarily as used to looking at the answer and trying to figure out what procedure could have given you that answer. This is reversal of the standard thinking process. Okay? Flipping it inside out. But there's something special. 5 times 5 is 25. This is what usually students eventually figure out. This is 6 times 6. 7 times 7. And then a good thing to do at this point is to ask the students, can you guess the next thing? Can you tell me the next thing to write on the left side? Can you tell me the next thing to write on the right side? And then we check, right? See if it works. What's the next left side? 1 plus all the way to 13 plus 15. And the right side, 8 times 8. And the students check. And they get very excited because they feel like they just discovered something. They feel like they just discovered something. Because I didn't tell them this. I said, can you tell me the pattern? You tell me what to write on the left. You tell me what to write on the right. This is the style that I like to use. And then, of course, the fun part next is, then why? Okay, so what's going on here is this is a lesson that started with arithmetic, but now we're going to go into a proof. Why? Well, actually, there's a couple of different ways. One of the ways that often comes up is, why is this a middle school lesson? It's because this is something called arithmetic progression. It's a sequence of numbers with the same gap in between. Okay? So then, by the way, this lesson feeds in from arithmetic and goes into this arithmetic progression part. That's also why it was useful to notice things added up to 10. So this one problem is actually quite rich. So you can talk about arithmetic progressions, and they can learn that when you want to add up all these numbers, you can add up the pairs coming in from the outside. And then the thing that you leave them with at the end of the class is to say, there's another way. And the other way, I don't tell them the entire other way yet. Usually I go and say, we're adding up all these odd numbers, right? I'm going to give you a hint. I'll draw you a picture. And I won't put any words. You're adding up all the odd numbers, starting from 1. I'm going to draw some pictures. That's a black dot. These are white dots. These are black dots. These are white dots. I promise you'll be done very soon with this picture. These are black dots. Okay, that's the hint. And then the game becomes how to figure out what the hint means. What's the hint? Oh, what was the first question? The answer was 25. What does this have to do with 25? There are 25 dots. 5 times 5. So it's 25 dots. There's 25 dots. 5 times 5 dots. Okay, but what were you trying to do? You were trying to do 1 plus 3 plus 5 plus 7 plus 9. Can we see that here? Yes, you can. Because there's 1 dot in the top left. That's 1. And then there are 3 dots here. That's 3. Over here, 5. Over here, 7. And over here, 9. That's why it's 25. 1 plus 3 plus 5 plus 7 plus 9. And then, by the way, you can follow this pattern. You can see that every time you draw another L shape, you'll get 2 more dots. Boom. Now we also have what's called proof by picture. Okay, so this was just, I know you guys don't need to learn this. You already know this sort of stuff. But I wanted to put this, thank you, this is what I wanted to do with this piece. Thank you. I wanted to put this here just to be able to illustrate, style. Style of how to run a lesson where you're not the one telling every step of the lesson. This is actually quite hard to operate. Okay, this is quite hard to operate. I can tell you a secret. The way I learned how to operate this is that I took acting classes. Huh? Yes, there's an acting style called improvisational comedy. And one of the advice I give to all people who do education is to take this class called improvisational comedy. Improvisational comedy, I don't know if you have this performing style in Philippines maybe? Yeah, the basic concept is you have 2 people and they don't have a plan. They don't have a plan. But they take turns saying a sentence and they have a conversation. So you have this concept here. You sometimes go to watch the shows and it's actually really, really interesting because these people have never planned what to talk about and the whole thing just flows. I took classes in that because it turns out that in the US, the theaters that teach, that show those kinds of shows also usually have lessons that you can take. Because it helps the theaters earn enough money to pay rent. That's the way it works in the US. I don't know how it is over here. But regardless, after taking those classes, I actually spent a year when I was 35. So this was not when I was super young. This is when I was 35. I spent a year and I did about 4 hours a week taking classes in improvisational comedy. It changed my ability to have confidence to deal with not knowing what's going on and what to say. Okay? Because it makes you very confident that even if you don't quite know what's going on, you have picked up the skill to say something that's reasonable. And that's also why when I run this style, the class has to be active. It's like you have to build this culture where the class will be active and will be your other counterparty, so that if you are also trying to figure out what's next, you toss it to them so it's their turn. What do you think? You tell me something. To teach this way, you also need to make sure you got enough sleep the night before. Because the difference between this teaching style and the normal one is there's no PowerPoint. There's no PowerPoint. There's just the problem that you're going to do. And then you think. But I have found that this has been way more fun for me to teach this way than the normal way. Because every single lesson I go into, it's like I'm going to go cook now. And I'm going to make something with whatever you give me. And my job is to play the role of a game show host to get this out of the audience. Okay, so this particular style, I want to say, I think can be used to get a lot of people to learn how to think. But it has limitations. It has limitations. There's a reason why this is not used everywhere. It's because if you go and say, tell me your ideas, what if some people in the back just sleeping? And they're just not going to tell you their ideas. They just want to sleep. Okay, so I want to acknowledge there's a reason why there's also a place for teaching in the regular way, to say, this is the way, make sure you do it. Now it's practice time. Every single person, go and make sure you do it. And then you go and check, did everyone do it or not? My answer is you sort of have to have both. You have to have both, unless you're lucky enough that the place that you're teaching in somehow has students where 99 or 100% of them are already motivated and ready to learn this way. I did see some people here teach at universities. So in the university setting, actually my class is 100% this way. It's just, let's just go and discuss. In the school level, when you don't have admissions that lead to people going into universities. Well, then maybe you cannot do this all the time. Well, then maybe this ends up being part of the after school. I actually think there's a very useful concept of making sure that there are different amounts of intensity of math available to the students. It's because not everyone wants to go and do much more of something, right? I assume that here in the Philippines, there are some people who just really, really like performing arts, and they will take whatever the school has for communication class, and they will spend extra time being, do you have like school plays and stuff like this too? Yeah, I never joined those at the time when I was young, because that's not what I wanted to do. I joined that when I was 35. But in any case, there's a time for everything, right? And there might be some people who really like science and they want to do science, or some people who like robotics and they do robotics. But I think it's important that for anyone who's open to the idea of learning how to think about math, that they also have some time they can engage in this. So this is one of the things that I actively work on now, how to scale something like this out to a much wider audience. I mentioned some of this earlier in the morning talk, but I'm going to say it again here because I see there's a lot of new people. And so I want to make sure that everyone here is on the same page before we move on to the question and answer side. So what I've been working on is this particular teaching style. It's actually really effective, but it's actually quite hard to execute. And it also requires a lot of resources, especially if you're doing it after school, or in addition to the regular load that the teachers are doing in school, because it just means you're going to need more people. And there's also this other tricky piece of, what if the students suggest something and you don't know what to do? What I do in the classroom if I don't know what to do is I say, I'll get back to you next class. I'll look it up, okay? And I say that. But I've come up with another way of doing this where you don't even have to do that. Okay, but this is a very, very different thing, and this will start to show the kinds of ways that I think about solving problems. I do want to emphasize the first thing that is important is that there has to be good work in the school during the school day by the teachers. This is very, very important. This is why some of the work that I do also supports teachers by helping teachers pick up these kinds of the techniques, the skills. I also often in the US will run sessions where I teach math classes to teachers, where we just go and play with these kinds of questions, where it's not like it's telling a teacher, this is some abstract math. More of, let's all play with this together, and you can start to see like, oh yes, you can use this connection to that connection to that. It's interesting. Okay, but now let me talk about the way I've been pushing this to scale in the US. And actually we have many other people involved in this all around the world, including people in Philippines, and including this is going to open a lot of opportunities in Philippines in many different ways. So again, the problem I'm trying to solve is I want to scale up the ability for huge numbers of people to be able to learn math where they have this very dynamic conversation and they are part of the lesson. Okay? And I'm keeping in mind that during the regular class, most teachers cannot do this for 100% of the time because there is so many other things that need to be done. So this is really an extra piece. In the US, this is often called math team. It's the additional piece, or math club, additional thing afterwards. Okay, so I have to scale this up. And as I said this morning, the way I came up with to scale this up is that it turns out that in this whole education ecosystem, math is not the only important skill to pick up. And I happen to know of a lot of people who are really, really good at math in high school. But their eventual life success, the limiting factor is not their math skill, but their communication skills and their abilities to get people really interested in their ideas. I want to encourage people, if you ever see a math genius in your class, it's also good to make sure that person learns how to adapt and be able to take that genius and also help to win other people over to join their ideas. This is really important. So what I do is I run a program for high school students. It's an international program, actually. And we have high school students in here who are really good at math. So good at math that they can solve any middle school math contest problem without any preparation. And then we hire professional comedians, actors, and actresses to teach them these performing arts skills. Just like how when I was 35, I took these classes. That's why I know this is so valuable. This, by the way, works because suddenly you have a win-win situation. Somehow in the performing arts world, there are actually a lot of people who have a lot of skills who are looking for some way to use those skills. Different kinds of jobs. And then over here, in this world of all these mathy people, well, they need these skills too. This incentive alignment works particularly well in the US because for these high school students who are really ambitious, it turns out that some of the US's most famous universities require more than just an exam score to get in. This is something that you may or may not know, but in the US, if you have an amazing math score, you are not automatically admitted into Harvard. In fact, Harvard has rejected many people with gold medals in the International Math Olympiad because of other skills not being strong enough for what Harvard wants. There's a reason. It's because Harvard is not just trying to figure out who's going to be the one who wins the Math Research Prize. They want to know who's going to do things that might cause significant impact. And that requires multiple skills. So basically what's going on, there's a lot of people who actually want to go, their ambitions are very high, and they need to get these skills, so they're all in this ecosystem. And then, what this whole thing does is that these people then practice their skills by live streaming math classes to teach the middle school students who are trying to learn how to think. I showed the video last time. I'm going to show it again this time because we have a different group of people, and this time the audio will actually work. And then I want to go and dive deep and deconstruct the concepts that are inside this teaching style that I'm showing you here. So for that, I think I want to not have the whiteboard. How do I turn off the whiteboard? Maybe you know how to do that. View options. Stop sharing. Did that happen? Maybe. Let's try this. Now let me share this. Yes, I got it. Let's share this. Okay. And I'm just going to go and play a short video. It's a 1-minute video clip of what we have done with live video-based math education. Come on, Zoom. Where's my Zoom? Disappeared. Just a second. Here it is. That doesn't look like Zoom. That doesn't look like what I wanted. 1 second. Stop this. There we go. Oh, I see. That's not what I want either. There we go. Yeah. Okay. So this is a 1-minute video clip. And I want to talk a little bit about this because this also demonstrates a certain dynamic that can be done. And this is what middle school students see. They see 2 high school students talking to each other and talking to them. And the lesson looks like this.
Minutes later. So, as we were saying, they still meet at the midpoint as a grid.
Just kidding. This time, it's still playing out on that side. Oh, that's because this thing adjusted. 1 second. This should do it.
Minutes later. So, as we were saying, they still meet at the midpoint as a grid point made by each. And then, now seeing this, since they go at the same speed, the green one goes here at the same time the red one goes there. And then 20 times 2 gives you 40. Because if it takes 20 minutes for green to go here from the first one to the right one, at 60 miles per hour, 20 minutes is 20 miles. And then this is also 20 miles, so we get 40. Awesome. Oh. I mean, Audrey, do you have anything else?
Actually, you know what? I'm a problem solver. And what I'm about to do here is I didn't see what it looked like for you guys. It's super jerky. Let me show you something else. So this thing maybe is useful if you ever teach online. Let me adjust something. Okay. Don't worry, I'm just going to adjust this thing. Good. Okay, this ought to be good enough. Close enough. Stop screen share. Start video. Replace spotlight. Good. Good. Audio. This ought to do it.
Minutes later. So, as we were saying, they still meet at the midpoint. That's a great point by you. And then now we're seeing this, since they go to the same speed, the green one goes here.
No. So now we had that problem. So this thing is playing the feedback back through. I know what to do. This will solve it. But that should be good enough. Yeah, okay, the feedback is playing back. I'm just going to play it again anyway. So what I was just showing you here is, I don't know if you've ever noticed this thing of like when you're playing a video on screen share. Have you noticed this really sharply? So just for fun, the reason why the audio is funny is because we have a funny audio setup in this room. But if you can see what I'm going to do here, based on the funny things that I just set up, we're going to get smooth video through Zoom. That's actually what this is. So you'll hear a bit of a funny echo, but this is the same video I wanted to show.
Minutes later. So
that is a too funny audio.
As we were saying, they still meet at the midpoint. That's a great point made by Ayush. And then now seeing this, since they go at the same speed, the green one goes here at the same time the red one goes there. And then 20 times 2 gives you 40. Because if it takes 20 minutes for green to go here from the first one to the right one, at 60 miles per hour, 20 minutes is 20 miles. And then this is also 20 miles, so we get 40. Awesome. So, I mean, Audrey, do you have anything else to add? I think that's a really good solution by Ayush.
Yeah, it's really good. And one of the better things about that solution is that you actually don't really need to know how fast the trains are traveling. You can just use the symmetry to sort of.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I actually like that you point out symmetry, because symmetry is always cool to see. And I think being able to see it in problems like this makes it more fun and also like makes it more elegant, I guess. But without further ado, Professor Loh, is there another way to do this problem?
But I promised you that there would be another way to do this question as well. Okay, so it actually worked. Actually, if you want to know why there was echo, the reason there was echo is because there are microphones in this room which were picking up the speaker. So there's no way we could fix that with the software anyway. But I wanted to show this piece. Actually, I wanted to also do that piece of the technology thing, because if you are ever curious how to remove the lag, the screen share has a lower frame rate than what you feed through to the camera. Did you notice that the second time I played it, it's like super smooth? And the first time I played it, it was like this? Yes. By the way, this is how powerful technology is. So if you use technology in the right way, you can make things work. And the only reason why there was the echo is the piece that I cannot remove in this particular equation is that I don't have control of the mixer board in the back. But if you noticed, I turned my mic off because I saw that my mic was taking the sound in. Anyway, this is like math problem solving in real world, I guess. But let me now go and dig into a bit more into what you just saw here. First of all, we are now able to deliver this at large scale. That's the exciting piece, at large scale. Because the way this works is there's actually a huge number of people who are at that high school stage who need this, because there are, well, basically anybody who is at the high end, in the top 1% of your classroom needs to do this. Because this helps to improve their success in the future. And the top 1% of your classroom, their math is actually pretty good. Now the magic is each one of these teaches 20 kids. The ratio is 1 to 20. With 1% of the classroom, you can teach 20% of the classroom. Remember, we're aiming right now for the people who are the hardest to teach. Look, I also teach classes. The people in the top 10%, it's hard to teach them. because with the time that I have in front of them, I can aim for the middle, 80. The top 10% takes a lot extra effort, a lot extra time. What we just did here is that the top 10% can be taught by the top 1%. The fact that I said percents is why this thing scales, because you don't need to wait like 20 years for them to become teachers. Of course, the deep question is, can they? Are they ready to do this? Because, as teachers, you have tons of experience. You know how to manage a classroom, right? And so what we do here is we go and build not a standard classroom, but something that today's teenagers are already comfortable with. It's called online chatting. And what this really looks like is what all the teenagers are watching today, called Twitch. Do you guys watch Twitch in Philippines? Yes. Do you have teenage Twitch streamers? Like who Twitch stream games? They do, right? Actually, what I noticed when I came up with this thing, I was basically saying, we've got all these teenagers. What do they want to watch? What do teenagers watch? They watch online entertainment, and largely it's led by other teenagers. They like to watch other people their age. So what we said is, let's just go and figure out a way to mimic that entire platform, peer-to-peer platform, which matches the year 2023. Okay, I used to say 2022, but matches the year 2023. And this is now what the people are natively interacting with. Other fun fact, did you notice that we have 2 people teaching the class at the same time? Why? That's because it increases redundancy. Any of us who ever had to teach online with Zoom, did you ever have your internet connection stop during a class? Okay. Did you ever have the computer crash during a class? Oh yeah. Did you ever have your power drop out or something? Oh yes. Hey, if there's 2 people, the other person just picks it up until your computer turns back on. 2 is great. Actually, there's even better. You know what happens whenever a student suggests an idea that the person talking doesn't know? The other person Googles it. This you're not allowed to do. This you're not able to do in a classroom. But you put 2 of them on, bam! There is nothing that can get past those 2. Because if you've got 2 people who are both already like in the top 1% of their class, and they have Google, how can middle schoolers fool them? Does that make sense? Like, by the way, these kinds of thoughts, for some reason, nobody did this before. When I did this, at first, a lot of people told me, you're stupid. Why have classes with 30 people? 30 people and 2 teachers. You can have classes with 15 people and 1 teacher. Everyone will think it's better. I said, no. The 2 teachers. 1 plus 1 is bigger than 2. That's what I said. 1 plus 1 is bigger than 2. And anyone who teaches in the classroom, if you've ever had a co-teacher, you know what that feels like, right? It's as if suddenly you're like, I don't have to be the one to fix everything. Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. But actually, we have more than 2. We have 3. The third person, this is why I said we have all these opportunities in the Philippines now. We have a third person. Because we have 2 people on camera. You only need 2 on camera because that also feels like a talk show. That's like TV. Your talk show. The 2 is a talk show. Oh, also, anyone ever teach on Zoom? And I don't know how your classes were. I had classes where they're all black screens, nobody saying anything, nobody type anything into the chat. I'm sitting there, I'm trying to talk, I'm trying to be excited, and I don't know if I'm the only person here and they're all watching YouTube. Yeah, have you ever? Okay, see, I can tell the whole world of teaching online has been the same experience for all of us teaching. Well, you go put 2 people there, at least they got someone else to talk to. It's true. And then suddenly the class actually is lively, and then the students come back in because it's got like something to watch. Okay, see, I'm telling you, like these thoughts, I don't know why people didn't try this before. We put them both in. We put them both in. Okay, right. But I said there's 3 people. The reason there's 3 people is you need the 2 to have this dynamic kaboom. The third person is because did you ever on Zoom wish that you could go and send a message to someone who hasn't been talking to say, hi, are you still here? Yes. Did you ever have someone ask a math question and you see it in the chat and you wish you could answer that math question right now, but you can't because you're going on with the lesson? Yes. That's the third person. Actually, if our class has 40 kids, there are 4 people in the room. Because we just stack on people who are not on camera, but answering through the chat. This is basically text-based teaching. if that makes sense. Of course, video-based teaching is better, but video-based teaching needs a very fast internet connection that's very stable, right? So what we have is we went all over the world, and here's what I was trying to do. Our classes are all after school in the US. Or not all. The primary focus, since I'm based in the US, we have a ton of classes which are 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. US Eastern Time. I was having so much trouble finding people who want to do part-time work 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. And then I looked at the globe. And I found out that over here, it's 8 a.m. to noon. So that's actually why right now we have undergraduate students and master's students from universities here who are doing part-time internships with us, where they are actually the ones who are doing the text chat, if that makes sense. They are not just doing customer support, by the way. We bring people who actually know math. Like our philosophy is we want every single person in this ecosystem to know math. Like actually know math. This is not something simple. This is like math teaching. It's just that you're not using the video. You have to type through the text, but that's actually what we have. And by the way, the reason why I even am related to here now, Ateneo, is because, well, as I was reaching out to my friends in the Philippines to say, do you know any people, any groups of undergraduates which might have people who want to do internships around this? They said you should go and talk to Ateneo Math Society, and well, the whole thing, one thing led to another, and now we have a talk for all of this, right? So basically, what's going on is that actually we do have opportunities. If you're curious about them, and if you're an undergraduate or master's student, if you're interested in that, send me an email. That happens to be like I'll put my main slides back up in a second. In a second. How about now? Yeah. Hey, how come the spotlight has been... Oh, yes, you wanted to see both at the same time. That works. Okay, I get it. Yeah, usually we run our own Zoom, but I understand what you're trying to do. You want the outside people to see both, not just be seeing one thing. But I guess you can see that. You can see here. Right, so the point is if any of the undergrads or master students are interested, if you go to my website, PO-Shen Loh.com, you can hunt for the contact, send me an email. The reason it's hard to apply is because we only want people who are serious. Okay, but let me continue on, right? More about the opportunities. So the interesting thing about this is also, it's all about pipeline development. So for those high school students who are doing the teaching, the on-camera teaching, it takes practice. You cannot just take a person and say, you're smart, go teach. No, that's what you do in grad school. Sorry. I don't know. Did anyone else have that experience? Did anyone else have that experience? TA, I don't know if you know what I mean. In the United States, that's what happens. I'm not blaming you guys. In the United States, our TAs, we do give them a bit of teach training, like a week, right? So it's the same everywhere. Okay, I'm not insulting anyone, by the way. This is just like how the world works. And okay, they figure it out. You figure it out. But what we do over here is we say, we need to teach you. We need to teach you. So that's actually why when they get here, we get the professional entertainers to teach them. And we also have people teaching them who have been teaching before, to go and say, this is how you go explain something. During that period of time, right now, we are wasting a lot of resources, and I would like to make them available. I always like to reuse resources instead of wasting them. What do I mean by wasting? We have all these classes going on right now where the people are teaching the classes, and the people are really, really good at math and already pretty communicative and pretty good at explaining, but not like super smooth. Sort of like how when I just gave this thing, there was a moment of hiccup as I was like, oh wait, let me click this, let me click this. In this case, the hiccup was because I'm not familiar with your system. In our students' cases, the hiccup is because they're not familiar with the system, the same kind of a thing. But the quality is still there. Right now, the educational quality is still there. Right now, all of those practice classes, the people listening to the practice classes are our people, pretending to be students. These are classes designed for 6th and 7th graders that actually teach you how to think, with questions like that 1 + 3 + 5 + 7, like questions which are gold. We have that kind of math going on right now, being taught to empty rooms with people pretending to be students. What I said is, look, if we are already starting to work with people from Philippines, for example, who are coming in and joining as part of this team, let's go and share the resources and offer for free Anyone who wants to come and listen in and be part of those classes, any 6th and 7th graders in the Philippines who want to be part of those classes where the high schoolers are training, but they're actually getting to learn math, this is a way that you can suddenly scale the access to this thinking class. Now it exists. Because actually the scale that we're trying to build this to, the high schoolers, 1 year ago, we only had about 4 high school students. Like about 1 year ago, we started this entire thing, 4 high school students. Today, it's close to 100. This can easily scale to 10,000 high school students. I say that because even in the US alone, 10,000 is approximately the number of high school students who would really want to join this because it will benefit them immensely. 10,000 is approximately the number of people every year who go to Harvard, Stanford, Princeton, Yale, MIT, like are you naming all of these, Berkeley, like all these highly prestigious places, they want to get these opportunities. By the way, if you're a high school student, this increases the chance that you get those opportunities. So easy scale to about 10,000. Think about it. If you have 10,000 people in this, each one teaches 20, 200,000 spots available. This is why this is exciting to me, because whenever I work on something, the question is scale. If what you're doing could potentially help 10 kids, it's a good thing, you should help your 10 kids, right? The moment your number is 200,000, you can do something on a country scale, if that makes sense. And our policy, so I'm a social entrepreneur. Social entrepreneur means that I try to do things that also have some social, social impact, and I don't know if I want to call it socialism. That's not what I mean. But that's not what I mean. I'm trying to say like some social balance, right? The way we work, by the way, the classes for middle school students, they cost money, normally. In fact, they usually cost US $20 an hour per student, which in some countries, people say, wow, that's really cheap. It's true. Some countries, they say that because it actually is a low price for that product in that market. My philosophy is, if you live in a country where the income level is just that is not cheap, then don't bother about paying. Just come and take this and we'll make it free, if that makes sense. The point becomes, well, we can have everybody win because there is a certain piece in this chain of value being created where it's actually already very valuable, and at the same time, it shares the resource. The reason why that has to cost money, by the way, is because that's the only way we can pay for everything. I spent hours last night talking to a person who works on trying to scale up large-scale education efforts. That person is thinking internationally. This I won't say who for privacy reasons, but there was somebody who was leading efforts to put huge amount of resources to work on scaling up education, and not only in rich countries, but all over the world. He was particularly interested in impact. And during this conversation, it was actually very useful that we were both on the same wavelength. The idea here is if you want to do something that's good, the thing needs to be able to pay for itself naturally as it scales to arbitrary size. What do I mean? Some interventions, when you do something to help, everyone you help costs you some money. Then you can't help that many people because it costs you too much. Our situation is that actually everyone we help generates a bit of extra money. That's actually what's going on. And then what we do is we then go and share that across in all the different ways. So we basically use the money we earn to go and pay for the entire rest of the pipeline. And there's this fountain of extra stuff that is coming out that we can put out. I'm saying this because I'm actually very serious. I like helping people who want to work hard and who are nice people. And so what we are trying to do is we're trying to match up so that as we're generating all of these lessons, that there are people who can actually benefit from them instead of just having our people pretend to ask questions as students. So these are the kinds of things that I do in education. Oh, maybe one more fun fact. When we were doing this thing, you may also have noticed that the conversation between the two of the people who are teaching feels very fluid. That's improv comedy. I just wanted to say that. If you ever watch improv comedy shows, that skill of being able to dynamically go back and forth, that's what that's about. Okay, so I've talked enough about these things. This is actually what I work on. As you can tell by now, I like to think about the education across a bunch of different perspectives, from the actual pedagogy, like how you deliver the thing, to the question of how do you scale, and how do you use the correct technology to do so. And you even witnessed just now, as I was doing this, now you know why we don't do screen share of videos. In our entire ecosystem, we have a lot of video going across on Zoom, and We actually will use technology when necessary to overcome other barriers. At this point, I want to have a bit more interaction. I've been talking too long. It's 1:28. It's been about 1 hour. So we have about one more hour. We have about one more hour. Does anyone have any questions about anything in education? Not Olympiads, because that's the next session. So I've been very careful. We're not talking about Olympiads. That's next time. But education. Oh, this is a great, interesting area. Anyone? If anyone has questions, we're going to alternate. We're going to go between question in the room to question online and back and forth. And if no one raises their hand to get up, we'd start with one online. But of course, the online people are still thinking. So, anyone? Could be about anything. Oh, I saw a hand. Come please, come please. Thank you. Thank you for being the first one. It's always hard to be the first one.
Hello.
Hello?
Hello, Professor Loh. So my question was about the topic that you discussed earlier. So remember that app that you developed and you've got
Yes.
published in New York Times. So my question is, what is the square root of 9?
Did you say what is the square root of 9?
Yes.
Oh, this sounds like a trick question. So technically, I would say 3. If you said what is the square root of 9?
I guess there's a better answer for that.
Oh, what's the better answer? I want to learn too.
Ping 3.
Wait, what did you say?
Ping 3.
P. Oh
Thank you,
no,
sir.
I didn't learn this. Can someone explain to me the joke? The square root of 9 is P?
Because the app that you developed was Ping 12, Ping 11, the one that you talked earlier, right?
P11.
Ping.
Ping,
12.
ping, ping. Yes, okay, ping. And the square root of 9 is 3. Ping.
3. Yeah.
Novid. Yes, Novid. I get it.
I guess my comedy class works.
Yes, good for you. Good for you. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Thank you for being brave. I appreciate that. Yeah. Actually, since you just talked about roots, I have to say, I saw something incredible earlier this week. If anyone saw what I put on my Facebook, I met a 10-year-old kid in Hong Kong who wrote down the square root of the seventh root of 1. Seventh root of 1. And it had all these square roots and cube roots and i's in them. And at first I thought it was just nonsense. Because as some of you know, if I want the seventh root of 1, that's e to the power 2 pi I over 7. Right? That's how you normally write it. You don't write it with all these roots. But it turns out you can. And this 10-year-old had come up with his own way of getting it. So, interesting. That's why when you asked me that, I was already in this root land. And I was like, is that what it is? No. Okay. Let's take another question. So do we have something from online? Because you wanted to, the suggestion from the organizers was to flip back and forth between online and on stage, in the house. Who is the person who has the online thing? One of the organizers. Who is the organizer I should look at? There. Oh, they're picking one. Ooh, fancy. Okay.
All right, so this question relates to motivation in teaching as well. So have you experienced being unmotivated in mathematics and maybe also in teaching mathematics? And how did you cope with this motivation problem?
Okay, I can understand this. So motivation in mathematics, I think if I felt that I really had to get the answers right and I got them wrong, that can be demotivating. But if I understood that the point was to try hard things and see as far as you can get, then that was not as demotivating. Basically, if I was working on questions that were supposed to be hard anyway, and I couldn't do them, that was okay. If I was working on questions that were not supposed to be hard and I couldn't do them, that would be demotivating. That's why my suggestion is to work on questions that are hard. If you do them, you feel happy. If you don't do them, they were hard anyway. Well, You should also do standard questions too. But I'd say that's one piece of the motivation. I think there's another piece, maybe I'll be more general. I will say for many people, I actually was talking to someone just a few days ago in person. And that person told me that they actually, at a certain point in their life, they remember that point when they said they don't like math anymore. And it was a point when that person was in school and did a math problem and did it their way. And then the teacher told them, you're not allowed to do it that way. You have to do it this other way. And then the person, what they didn't like was they didn't like that that they didn't receive an explanation for why their way was wrong, right? By the way, sometimes their way is wrong. Sometimes their way is wrong. I've seen a lot of this too, right? But I just think whenever you tell a student, don't do it this way, it's important to give a reason. Or maybe say, okay, fine, it's fine, it's okay. Because by the way, the student said it had the same answer, so, why can't I do it my way? As we all know when we teach, there are ways to get the same answer and be wrong, right? So that's why it is important to know how they got there. But so that's one piece of the demotivation. Another piece of, now you wanted to ask about the not being motivated to teach. That's an interesting one. I think I know a lot of people who are in the education world. I'm not sure how much of this is relevant to you in Philippines, but in the United States, in some parts of the country, you don't have much choice on what you're going to teach every day. It is that today, it will be exactly this section of this chapter of the curriculum, and the next day will be the next section of the next chapter. And in the US, there will also sometimes, depending on the state you're in, there will be tests that your students will take after a month to see how good of a job you did in teaching them to do those things. And sometimes the teachers feel that this takes away the art of the teaching and it becomes not as much fun anymore. I'm saying this in case there are any policymakers here, right? My feeling is, I think that teachers are special. They work very hard. They have a lot of skill. The longer they're there, the more skill they have too. And it's useful if they can feel the freedom and the creativity to go and make the problem that they want to make. Like this thing I just gave you, 1 + 3 + 5 + 7 + 9. I know that sometimes you cannot teach that because that doesn't fit into any one curricular day, right? What did I do here? We did arithmetic, we did arithmetic progression sum, and we did proof by picture, which is not part of any curriculum. But if you put it in, then where you put it? You put it into the arithmetic progressions, then you cover less arithmetic progressions because you spent all this time doing arithmetic. And then what is this proof by picture? The students will just ask you, is this going to be on the test? And the answer is no, because you didn't write the test. I don't know if you guys write the test or not, but sometimes when I say write the test, I mean the test. There's the test you write, and then there's the test that they take that someone else wrote. And if it's not on that test, you do worse, because you didn't prepare them for that test. Oh my gosh, but even the idea of prepare them for that test, my philosophies on education are that you shouldn't be preparing for tests, you should be teaching things. Preparing for tests, there's a shortcut. The shortcut is just do all the problems that style. You don't even have to understand. Just know that when it looks this way, you do that. Look this way, do that. This way, do that. Don't understand anything. And so I guess my thought is the demotivation factor, one of the demotivation factors for teachers that I've seen is if they don't have enough freedom to actually do what they like to do, which is called teach. So that one is tricky, how to fix this. I'm not entirely sure. That one needs to have some help from the ecosystem. Of course, what we try to do is we try to at least make sure that there's some of that students can touch afterwards through online. Yeah. Any other questions? So let's go for the in-person again. Yes, please come, please come. The person on the edge, yes. And this is going to be hopefully kind of like free-flowing.
Okay. Hello, Professor. So the previous question was about motivation among teachers. And my question is also about motivation, but among students this time. So when you were discussing the dynamic teaching style in comparison to the regular teaching style, you mentioned that there are a lot of factors that can prevent teachers from using the dynamic teaching style. And one of them is that the students need to be able to buy into that teaching style. The students need to participate and ask questions, otherwise you can't hold a conversation. So I imagine that sometimes, maybe say at the start of a year, when a teacher first meets a group of students, they're shy, they're not yet willing to open up and talk. But maybe later in the year, they might be more willing to talk. But as you mentioned, there are also times, say, when the students simply aren't interested in pursuing math like that. So perhaps even later in the year, the teacher can't really get them to participate in discussions like that. So, sir, as a teacher, when you encounter groups of students, how do you discern whether these students at some point in time would be willing to participate in dynamic discussions like these versus times when that style of teaching simply wouldn't work with them?
Well, thank you. So thank you very much for that question. I really appreciate that you jumped up and wanted to say that. And we always need questions like that. So thanks for being brave. And actually, in general, what I just did there is also one of the key points. It's like, if you want to get more people to participate, you get excited when someone participates, which is good. I'm glad you did it, right? I didn't only do this to stage here. I'm just explaining why, like, I would have done this anyway, but I just unpacked what I did and why I did it. Now, when it comes to like helping people just like stay engaged even later in the year, that's where I tell all of our high schoolers who are running these classes, I tell them what goes through my head when I do the teaching. I am the game show host. I am the game show host. You are in front of the room, you are the game show host. This is a game show. Let's go and get people to say something. And as soon as anyone says something, you're like, yes, that's good, right? You add the excitement. Whoa, we even got feedback from me on this. I heard that, but it's okay. So anyway, so I'm saying like add that excitement, right? And then also the other thing is, are there students that you won't be able to get back in this way? See, that becomes a challenge. That becomes a personal challenge. In fact, sometimes I go, not just sometimes, quite often, I will go on purpose into schools where there aren't people who are super interested. Or I'll take that back, where a lot of people aren't super interested, but some are. Whenever I'm teaching that class, like in a 6th grade classroom, teaching a class, not as a fancy guest speaker, but like teaching a class to understand the ecosystem. That's how I understand the ecosystem, by actually going in and teaching a 6th grade class in a regular school. I do this every few weeks. Actually standing there in front of the classroom, not fancy lecture, like I'm going to teach a class, I want to understand what you're walking through so that I can actually do something. I'm not a kind of guy who's like, in theory, this is what you do. No, I go in. And the kinds of schools I go into in the United States, sometimes, quite often, you pass through metal detectors to get in. This is where I go in. I actually want to go and try the real thing, if that makes sense, right? And then so you go in and you say, all right, how many students can I win over today? That's the challenge. In fact, that was inspired by a colleague of mine, a wonderful math professor. His name is John Mackey. He's a professor at Carnegie Mellon. And there was one day that he was walking off to his calculus class, business calculus class to teach. I said, okay, good luck. You know, business students and how much they care about your calculus class, right? I don't know if any other math professors are here, but there's the calculus for the math people, there's the calculus for the engineers, and then there's calculus for the business students. Nothing against business students. I do business too, by the way. I think business is awesome. But sometimes the people in business class are like, yes, I have this one required math class. It's called business. It's called calculus. Okay, right. So he was walking off to there, and I said, "Okay, good luck." And he said, "Oh no, this is fun." By the end of the semester, I like to see how many of them I can convert into math majors. You know what I mean? Like, that's a sport. It's a sport. It's just interesting to talk to people who have that angle on the world. It's like, okay, I understand. You might not think you're interested. Let me see if I can do anything about that. Right? And it becomes a sport. All right. It depends on the person. Yeah. I have a suggestion. Is there any one of you who's on that Zoom meeting who has your mic on? Do you know what I mean? Like mic on your computer. Is there anyone who has mic on? That's not on the audio. Oh, I see. Audience. Who is audience? The audience computer has mic on. Who is the audience person? It looks like that. Who is the audience? No, the camera looks like that. It's looking, it's whatever, you can't see. But it's whatever is looking at that. Oh, it's this one. It's this one. Oh, it's the big one. Yes. What's this plugged into? Aha. Is that on? Please mute the Zoom. Please mute the Zoom. I think because I don't see the. Okay, I'll mute your Zoom. I think think I have the power. Is it? I'm going to mute your Zoom. Oh, I get it. It's my Zoom. That's good. Got rid of that. Let's also mute the audience Zoom. Oop, that's good. Doodlepad, I'm going to mute you too. You have no power to make sound anyway. Okay, it's fine. I think we're back again. I think? Yes, good. And in that case, that flips to an online question. Online question. Who's next? Here comes an online question.
This question is focused on learning in general. So, what is the best way to learn competition level math and math in general and remember those lessons long term? And a follow-up question, do you have any recommended resources that are accessible to anyone who wants?
Yeah, okay. To be able to learn competition math, we'll be talking a lot more about that in the next section because that's about Olympiads. But I'll just say in general, if you want to learn any math, right? I'm going to say this is general education, learn any math. It is by actually knowing why it's true. That's the first step. I also interview people because whenever we run our online math classes, I have all these people who work for them. Actually, they pass through me for the interview. And I only like to work with people in math education who like math. And so I ask questions. I ask math questions. And if the answer to the math question, I always ask why. And if the answer they give is because the teacher said so, that is bad. Math is the unique subject where there's always a reason, and it goes all the way down to 1 + 1 = 2, usually. Like, it's something like very, very low level. The good thing about math is that there's a reason for it. Not that we don't trust you, teachers. It's great that the teacher said so, but it's not okay if the student only thinks it's true because the teacher said so. It's nice they trust you, right? But they should understand. And so the reason why some people feel like math is hard is because they don't understand. And then after a while, it's just a big mess. It's like, well, I think the teacher said that, right? Was it a plus or a minus? Well, there was one of them. One of them is true, I think. And then after a while, the whole thing falls apart, right? So that's the main thing. Never think of math because the teacher said so. In fact, once you learn math to understand everything, it becomes the easiest subject. A lot of people say that math is hard. I think math is the least to remember. The least to remember. Because if you can always think it down to the bottom, well, everything makes sense. Whereas there are other subjects like history. I mean, come on, how do you remember what year was the War of 1812? Well, that one I can do. Okay? Right? But like all these other things, like, what was that? Some random number. So that's why I say learning math, learning why, okay? Now, if you want to learn more advanced math, that gets even more complicated. Then you cannot just know why it's true. You need to be able to figure out that proof for yourself if you had to, because there's no way you can remember a one-page essay, which is the proof, right? The way you learn that, we'll talk more about in the second stage, because most of the people here are not working on that level yet. Well, I shouldn't say most of the people here, but I mean the target of this audience was not on that level yet. Question from in the room. Oh yes, there's lots of them now. This is exciting. So maybe you right here, yeah?
Good afternoon. What are your thoughts about international large-scale assessments in education like PISA and TIMSS?
Okay, what? Huh? Sorry? Okay, what are my thoughts on international large-scale assessments like PISA? I understand what they're trying to do. They want to be able to get some sense of how things are going country to country to country. I think my view on assessments is it's a measurement, but you shouldn't train to that measurement, okay? The PISA one, I think, is broad enough that it is actually just generally saying, okay, how are we doing? It's not looking for top math skill. It's just trying to understand how, in general, is the math skill distributed across the country and the world. Does it give you information like different regions as well inside your country? I would assume so. And that gives you some idea of how to try to allocate resources. I view those as just a very broad measurement. It's sort of like, I guess in my head, I would look at the PISA sort of like looking at a weather map and seeing the temperature across the different parts of the world. And, then okay, it's like this hot, this cold. That's a piece of information. That's a piece of information. It's not a bad piece of information. But I am actually right now going for something which is much deeper than that. But do the people actually want to learn the math? Will they go further? Oh yeah, I can tell you. So this is funny. I remember seeing something quite funny. It was on a late night TV show actually. It was after the PISA assessment, and it was an American late night TV show, which was talking about how America scored on the PISA. Apparently, America was not the highest in the math level. Actually, it was like among all of the countries in its group was very low. But apparently, when asked about their confidence in math, America was number one. Okay, so that's quite interesting. I think it was. I think I'm remembering correctly. It was but it was very, very high. This was a very funny late night TV show where it showed like the imagery in the background was not from the PISA, but it was like a guy riding off the roof on a skateboard and then crashing. But anyway, it's somehow like number one in confidence and the ability. Not so sure. But then there's also, I think another part of it was, do they want to pursue STEM careers? Actually, America was also doing well on that. So now it becomes very interesting, right? Because this sort of information, how do you think about it? Because one part of it is, can you do it? But another part of it is, do you think you can do it? And do you want to do it? I think you sort of need all of them. But I think it's useful to think about the fact that there are these different characteristics too. Because, for example, if you're confident that you can do it and you want to do it, that's why I opened this program in America. It helps people to then use those two to also be able to do it. On the other hand, you can think about the other sides. It's like, what if you have people who yes, they can do it, but maybe they are not confident in it? Then you need to work on helping them be confident. That's a more psychological game. Anyway, so my view is like, the fact that I even saw this, right, that these different dimensions, that I think that's a useful piece of information. And I think what I would encourage doing is try to make sure you get people to actually like it and to actually think that they can think about something hard, and then to provide the way for them to go with it until the point of the PISA becomes that those questions are on the easy side. I mean, I'm of the opinion that a lot of people can achieve much higher than the standards, much higher than the standards. It's just a question of how they, in their own heads, think about it. Yeah. Online question. Is there a person? And we've got lots of questions here now, so I'm going to try to be faster in answering so that we can cover more of them. Oh, thank you.
All right. How do you see your after-school program implemented in a country where connection, I think internet connection and resources such as the device, phones, is very limited?
Yes, this is what I was talking about last night with the person who was working on how to scale up advanced education all around the world. See, my take on this is that we could try to make a low bandwidth version of this. It could take us 5 years to get it done right. And then when we're done, your internet is already fast. So this is something, by the way, which I've noticed. The internet speed in the country gets faster and faster and faster every year. And I'm very confident that we're only about 5 years away from everyone being able to get 1080p video at 30 frames per second. Do you know why? It's because the main driver, what do people use the internet for in many countries? When I was growing up, what you used the internet for? Well, you didn't know it existed. And then at some point later, what they used the internet for was to buy things from Amazon or something. Like you buy things. Or actually, before that, you would check news or something and then buy things. But the news was words and occasional pictures that loaded very slowly, right? And then it also was used for email with words, very little bandwidth. And then it was used for chat, no images. But today, most young people use the internet for entertainment, specifically video entertainment. Is that true here too? Yes. The main consumer use case, the main reason why people use the internet in this whole world is to consume video. Like that's it, consume video. 1080p video is the standard for high definition. That's why all of these handsets, all of these phones come out at that screen size. 30 frames per second is the frame rate, so you don't see this, right? And what you just saw me do there is I switched something up so that I can run my frame rate back to like normal. My point is, because what the average person is using the internet for is internet video, the demand power, the power of the economy, the economic forces will cause every country's internet speed to reach the point where they can participate in inbound video. Outbound video is a different question, by the way. There's a download speed and an upload speed. The upload speed might be weak, but the download speed will be very strong because that's what the buyers want. The way I think about the world is just what forces are there. So even however a government decides to do whatever they do, the pure market forces will push until you reach this point that I don't have anything to worry about. So that's why what we are doing is we're just saying, we're going to deliver this to anybody who has internet which can consume it. If you don't, hopefully you guys can push your government or push your telecom providers to like do this. And once you do this, it doesn't only help your education, it's everything. Yeah. Next question from the inside the side. There was somebody here who had raised hand. Yes, please come over. And then I know there was someone there too. We'll get to you too, right?
Hello, Professor Loh. So to set context, for the senior high school of the Ateneo, for grade 11, we have a required subject called Tulong Dunong. So in a class, there are 40 people per class. We are divided into pairs, and each pair, one will teach English, one will teach math. We will teach, in my experience, we have 5 public school students, and each session is only for 1 hour. And we're divided, since we have 2 subjects, first session, the English one, will take 30 minutes, and the other, math, will take also 30 minutes. And one thing we saw is that we found it hard to package these lessons to the grade 6 public school students into something neat in such a short time, because 30 minutes for us, it's a very short time, especially with online and with the uncertainty that that all of them will be in the session by that time. So is there a way to package these grade 6 lessons in a short amount of time online that is both understandable and engaging? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So actually the lessons that we run online, our math lessons are 30 minutes plus 30 minutes. They have already been pre-cut. And in fact, when we only have 30 minutes, we run just a 30-minute class. Actually, every single class I run in the real life also is where there is a problem. My classes are not organized around the concept. They are around the problem. And the problem covers a lot of concepts. So it's sort of like, instead of trying to tick a lot of boxes, I have some paint that I'm splashing onto the checkboards, on the checkboxes. You know, I'm not saying tick, tick, tick. I'm saying got those, and I need to cover everything, right? But when it's problems, the problems are half an hour each. So I think maybe it's just a question of how do you structure the class. We structured our problems so that we know from our experience that this is a 30-minute problem. 30-minute problem means that there's multiple ways that you will explore to do this question in those 30 minutes. That's from experience. So I guess that's what I would say. Another thing about teaching in general, if you ever become a teacher, you become very good at looking at the clock. Because you know that when that bell goes off, oh boy, your students, they're gonna leave. They're done with you, okay? They're like, why are we still here? Do you know what I mean? Like the bell going off in a normal school is just this, the students' minds are, that's it. So whenever I'm in a building, what's that? Switch off. Whenever I'm in the building, I'm just very aware of when that thing is gonna go. And my lesson needs to end before that. Yeah? But at the same time, I cannot end my lesson 5 minutes before that, or else then the students just sitting around like, what do we do? Maybe they're very happy, or maybe it gets really chaotic, and then the teacher in the classroom next door says, what's going on? Because your students just decided, the moment you say class is over, that's also it, right? So basically there are two moments when class is over. When you say class is over, or either of those. Therefore, you need them both to be the same moment. So, that's why the clock here has the seconds. You guys are lucky, you have seconds. I don't. Like when I teach, I just have like whatever my phone says, which is minutes, or whatever the clock in the room is, which is minutes. And then I actually sort of, as it gets close, I'm sort of in the corner of my eye checking to see when it ticks over. And you get this very good skill as a teacher to sort of know what is 1 minute. Do you know what I mean? Yes, you know what? Okay, anyone who's done this. So that's why, don't worry, you'll get the experience. 30 minutes is fine. Like if basically when you teach, whatever period you've got to teach in, you know how to go like fast, slow, whatever it takes. But in this particular case, just get some experience within your team and share the experience of this is a half-hour unit. This is a half-hour unit. That's math. I have no idea how to teach English. That's a different thing. Yeah. Okay. Great. Nothing against English. It's just that that's not my expertise. I have no idea how to teach that. All right. Now the online question is next, right? Always you're the representative.
How should students approach competing with dishonest peers, considering the competitive environment of getting into some institutions or programs?
Yes. So this is interesting. I'm going to ask a question. You say it's competitive, and it is competitive. Do they put a limit on how many students can get in from one particular school? Or is it just across whole country, past the line? Whole country, whole state. Is it right? Good. Then work with the people around you. The two of you together, working together, will both get in. The two of you working against each other will both not get in. Something like that. What I've noticed is in the US, our US team selection and all kinds of things are on the whole country at the same time. So it is not a problem if there are two very good friends who are both really, really, really good. Usually they motivate each other. So I guess my main point here is just, yes, they're competing, but you will still get farther if you have that cohort. If you have somebody else who cares enough that they're going to compete, if you share notes and you actually hang out together, you will both go farther than each of you alone. Hopefully that was useful. Yeah. Other questions? In person. There was somebody on this side who had one. Was it one of you guys? No? Oh, it was back there. Yes, please.
Hello. Okay. All right, so good afternoon. I'm John from De La Salle. I have a question relating to the previous topic. So I'd like to share a short story. A few years ago, I attended a webinar about what's this? Career options for mathematics and statistics majors. And the speaker was a data scientist. Sure, and then I was thinking, what about us math majors who wish to pursue theoretical or pure mathematics? And when I asked her that question, she started laughing. And she said, no, academe. So my question is, considering that pure mathematics can actually help solve many problems, how can we remove the stigma that just because you're a math major, you belong to the academe?
That's a good question. Yeah, I think that problem will actually end up solving itself as people discover that the pure math majors can do a lot of things. Because, for example, in the US, over the past few decades, it has become that the pure math majors are very valuable. They often end up getting the jobs, the most fancy jobs in the financial world. They end up getting hired by the software companies as well. The key, though, is to make it so that when you interview for a job, okay, actually, you know what? Let me give you the secret, all right? So this is what I tell all of our students at Carnegie Mellon. The secret. How do you get a job? Okay? Here's how. You make lots of very good friends who are 2 years older than you. Okay? I'm actually completely serious. Not your age. Your age is not going to help too much. It's not even about competing, okay? It's not a competition question. And 3 years older, you barely get to know them because they're the big final year student and you're the first new, you don't talk so much. 2 years. What's magic about the 2 years? Well, you need a job now, right? They probably work at some companies which are hiring people. At that point, what will get you the job? By the way, just being good friends, that's not enough. You get to know them, but they should ideally know you as somebody who is like pretty clever, works hard, reliable. If you're a pure mathematician, ideally, it's clear that you can do some other things too, right? Like I also did computer programming, didn't have a degree in it, but I could program a computer. I could fix Zoom when it needs to be fixed. Like just in general, like just be known as a person who, really good at pure math and also, can do stuff. That will get you the interview. That will get you, I don't know, actually I should check. Is that how things work in Philippines, or is it very rigid on the CV only? Like in the US, the way it works is you submit your CV saying, I want a job. And those, the recruiting person in the company sort of looks at. On the other hand, if someone already in the company says, I know this person is good, then you invite them to give the CV now. They give the CV now, the recruiting person looks and says, yeah, seems okay, and then you interview them. And then as you get to the interview, the thing that makes big difference is how on the interview do you show what you can actually do. Is that similar to how things are in Philippines? Some part of it, yeah, some part of it. So if that's somewhat like it, that will help you a lot. Yeah, but the key is if you didn't make those friends, then you do have the problem that you submit your CV and the recruiter says, what is this? Do they know how to do anything else? They don't know enough about you. You need to have some people who can vouch for you to say, hey, this person actually knows more stuff. But by the way, at least where I am, a lot of the pure math people, they're really, really smart. And everyone knows that they're really, really smart. How else can you understand all of that backwards E's and upside down A's, right? Like, you can actually figure a lot of things out. And then in the real world, you're going to use that exact same skill to crack whatever you need to crack. Yeah. Okay, question from the online.
All right. This is in relation to math anxiety. What advice can you give to teachers who want to help their students alleviate math anxiety, especially those who are already in junior high school or higher?
I think it helps if you have people be able to have a chance to say out their ideas and to see that their ideas can be made to work. That's why it's important to have a space where even if the idea is not right, what the teacher does is they just still grab the idea and do something with it. Let me give an example. So if I'm teaching a class and I'm doing something which is in my university, so oftentimes we have more complicated questions. And maybe it's a question that has to do with some kind of last digits of some numbers when you multiply. And suppose a student says something like, oh, yeah, I want to use the fact that whenever you add two even numbers, the answer is always odd. And so what I'll say is, thank you, that's great. I'm glad that you want to use odds and evens. That actually is the secret because we're doing some multiplications, right? I just think you should let's change the odd to even. How about that? That's called you're completely wrong. But it's not, because you did think about using the evens and odds in the idea of last digits and multiplying or something, right? So the point is, if you can make sure that whenever an idea is proposed, even if it is wrong, you very quickly try to figure out some way to save face for that person. That's actually what this is, save face for that person. Then the person starts to feel more willing to say their ideas. And if they find out that their ideas somehow always work, then they feel more confident. That's one way. By the way, that's why this improvisational comedy is very useful. The principle of improvisational comedy is called yes and. That's actually what this is called. Whenever you hear anyone say yes and, the philosophy is if anyone says something, you don't say no. You say yes and add something else. But you have to go with the momentum of where they're going. That's one piece. Another piece that can help with the math anxiety is if the way you grade your homeworks is that you, for example, go with the reason as opposed to with the correct or incorrect answer, that can make people feel a little bit less worried about one of those pieces. But I really think the biggest part is just they have to see that they can do it. And if you have the freedom and the free time to sit down with them and even talk to them about math and let them see that their ideas can come through, that can help. Or you can find out where is the place where they are actually having problems. The place they're having problems might be that it's in the fractions. It might be that there's something around fractions that they're having trouble with, and you're learning about trigonometry. So you might need to build some confidence from there. Yeah. Question from here. Yes, go ahead. Oh, I see there's lots of people, so we'll take from here, and then I see people back there, so we'll bounce back there next time.
Thank you, Dr. Loh, for the presentation. And I am Kurt, and I'm just a person who loves to do math very much. So these questions have a background. Okay. So as growing up in my home place, I was also immersed in a squatter-like community, and whose perspective in math is kind of shallow. What I mean in the word community is almost all within my place have these sturdy notions about math being, of course, a hard and very redundant subject. And to add, not every one of us is privileged to learn and engage in something like this stuff. Just to summarize, I felt being an outcast in my area for loving to do math, whereas everyone else is not interested. So one of the things that I believe I can suggest to the schools, to my community, is having to something like integrate a third-party software third-party platform, when learning math in the classroom. This is the first question. Is it a good idea to suggest the schools in my area with a learning platform similar to brilliant.org or Cut the Nut, just to fit those current knowledge of the students within my area? And the second one, how likely will such integrations be worth investing for the betterment of mathematical perspective, not just for my community, but also to the similar areas to our standing? And the last question, and ultimately, can my idea catalyze awareness of my people to competitive math and to the especially to the art of problem solving? Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, this is a very good point. So you did say, for example, that even to be in this talk is quite privileged to decide that you can come to this. For people to come to this talk is a privileged thing in the first place. That's your point. And I also appreciate what you say when you say that there are people who maybe really want to do math, but then you end up being looked down upon or have a difficult time socially when everybody else in that community is not enthusiastic about the subject. You asked then about whether to use particular third-party platforms. I actually think a lot about that. And that's why I was going into 6th grade classrooms where you go through metal detectors on your way. Because I do care about other communities where there might not be lots of people and expectation that you want to do lots and lots of math. So what I found out is there are people like you who actually want to do things in math, It seems like the biggest value that can be created is to introduce people like you to each other from those same common experiences. from the same general geographic area if possible. Because then that lets you see that you're not alone. Actually, for me, I grew up in a different part of the world, but where I was also wasn't super socially acceptable to really want to do math either. And the thing that kept me going is that I met other people who were from my general area who said, we want to do this. And then I had other people to do it with. So this is about community building. So for example, what we do right now in the US for this online teaching thing, we actually have a program we run. It's a scholarship program, and it's supported by donors, by philanthropists who want to help people from different backgrounds to become extremely good at math. And the core concept of this scholarship program is where we build cohorts where inside that city we pick 5 students per school. We pick based on applications. The students and the teachers apply, and then once we build the cohort, we build a special program for these 25 kids from 5 different schools to be able to learn math together. At that point, the kind of curriculum and content that you use is the secondary issue. To me, the primary issue is letting them see each other, because I always see people as very social creatures. And if you have some other friends that you can actually feel understand you, you'll be amazed how far things can go. So I think my answer is great to be sensitive to the concept that you just said, which is there are people who might be surrounded by other people who are not supporting them, surrounded by other students who are not supporting them to go and pursue the math. How to help them pursue math more, I don't think a website alone does it, but I do think a bunch of people can make a big impact. And so I suggest this. I actually think that this is magical. And community, it comes back to community. Question from online. We need to go a bit faster. Question from online. Oh, you're there, great.
The asker teaches pure mathematics in a state university. I'm still pretty young in teaching, and I find it hard to make technically difficult subjects be taught lightly even to math majors. I always feel like I fail in giving them the clear picture why we are studying a particular pure math topic. How do I do this the right way?
Okay, did the person say they're teaching the pure math topic in the university or in the high school?
They did not mention, they mentioned that they teach it to math majors.
So they teach it in the university. And they're teaching the pure math topic. Oh, yes. Okay, so if you want to teach the pure math topic in the university and try to show how this thing is useful, I think I would be trying to figure out how to relate that topic to to why it was done in the first place. This is how I often think about it. There's a history. This is called history of mathematics. Every single theorem was proven by somebody. Why? The good thing about the math that is taught in the university is that's pretty easy to find. It's also pretty easy to figure out which mathematician and maybe what were they trying to do. Today's mathematics in the graduate level, well, it's hard to tell because there's so many mathematicians that are doing all these different things. And why did they think about that anyway? I don't know. I have to go read the introduction. You go back and you're like, why was Isaac Newton trying to take a derivative? Oh yeah, there was some motion, some things moving around, right? So I would just say, figure out why the mathematicians did it in the first place. Tell the story. Actually, if you notice, the way I give talks, I tell stories. Stories. Humans respond to stories. Like, this is why anyone cares. This is how it fits in. Okay, and now you want to know how to do it? Let me show you. It's like this, right? Or rather, maybe I don't need to show you. You can figure it out, and we figure it out together. Okay, next question. There were 2 hands in the back there on this side. The person in the pink, let's start with you. Oh, well, okay, the guy who got up. We'll start with you, and then we'll go up there.
Good afternoon, sir. My question is related on teaching mathematics po. How can you prolong your patience in teaching when your student is not a fast learner? This is because I try to teach my fellow student, but I can't last long on it because he forget what I teach right after.
Okay, so this is interesting. This is why I like to do teaching where I don't tell you, do you remember what I just said? It's more of, can you do the next step? Can you do the next step? You're not going to just follow something. And in fact, I will rarely give you another question which is just like the one we just did. So I would say, if you just change the style of what are you trying to do? Are you trying to teach them to know how to do this kind of problem? Or are you trying to teach them to generate ideas? If they cannot generate ideas at that level, ramp down easier problems to generate ideas on. But what I do is my teaching of anyone in our program or personally, the entire point of the teaching time is to have you make ideas. Not to have you remember what I showed you last time to be able to do. By the way, if you made your own idea to figure it out, you might also remember it. Right? Like if you're the one who was involved in making it, you will remember it. If there was someone else saying, yeah, you write a 2 here, okay? And then what do you do? Add 7. Oh, okay, 9. You know, after a while, why did I do all this? I don't know. Because you told me to. Okay. Next question, the online one. Online question.
How do you spot mathematical talent in a student, and how do you effectively support said students?
Okay, so here we'll get to my word talent. I think very few people have mathematical talent. I think that most people have mathematical skill, and a lot of people can have mathematical skill. Very, very, very few people have mathematical talent, which means that they are way beyond everyone else. One of them is the kid I just met in Hong Kong. Okay, so like that, you'll see like one a year. When I say you'll see one a year, I mean there is one a year in the world. I don't think that there's a thing of somebody who's just more talented. I think it's more of a question of, does their brain hold math as something that makes sense? Or does their brain hold math as a bunch of things they remember the teacher told them to do or forgot? Okay, so now how do you spot mathematical talent? Well, I can tell you, I saw this guy and I said, what is this? And I started asking some questions and I said, I've never seen anything like this in my life before. That's mathematical talent. Everyone else, I just see that, yeah, you just think. They can all think. They can all think at about the same pace given what experience they've had. Now, it is useful to spot for mathematical skill. It's useful to do that, but I use that to try to figure out, okay, then we can go faster. And then maybe somebody who doesn't have the skill yet, then the question I ask is, okay, where are we? Where's the hole? And the gap is usually at fractions or something like that. This is actually I mean, we have teachers here. Like, oftentimes the gap people have is fractions. You go and teach some advanced thing, but they're stuck at fractions. And then you get stuck. So, yeah. Okay, let's take a question. The person in the pink. Yes.
Hello, Mr. Po-Shen Loh. I just want to ask because I'm a person who do a lot of studying, and when I'm very excited from studying, I love to read. So whenever I want to relax, I still want to want to be more productive, and what I do is that I read books. So I'm just so curious because you have mentioned that humans are captured by stories, and we know that books, they have a lot of stories. So is there any, or are there any books that you can recommend to students or even working professionals that they can read to be more inspired by mathematics as well? And also, one more thing, follow-up question is that I know that you have not, I mean, you did a lot of great things already, and I just want to ask if ever you want to write your own biography as as a way to share your story or the things that you did for other people, like helping others to love mathematics. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So the books about mathematics. So I like how you said the thing about stories. I'm not sure I know that many books that would be inspiring to build stories about mathematics. It's not because people didn't try, or maybe it's because people didn't really try to do that. Maybe it's, okay, I'll be practical. The market for the books, like how many books you'll get to sell, is not huge. So it could be that the publishers didn't publish them. But the way that I got my stories of the mathematicians was by going to math events and meeting human beings who were about my age, and they looked like they were interesting. They had their real stories, and I just spent time talking to them. And it was not a written word, but in my head, I actually have lots of like memories and understandings of life stories of many different people who did math. And that's what inspired me. Like, maybe that's the thing. I don't look at a person and say, oh, this person's a god because they scored 136 points on the such and such and they have a gold medal. Those I don't remember. Those I don't remember. Those are not the important details to me. But I know about things of like, this person, like what kind of personality they are, when they get excited, what kinds of things they enjoy doing, the kinds of jokes they tell, which, by the way, math people tell actually pretty good jokes. They do. They're really clever. They're really clever jokes. At least I think they're funny. You want an example? Okay. Well, okay. So 3 logicians walked into a bar. The bartender asks them, do all of you want a drink? Or do any of you want a drink? The first person says, I don't know. The second person says, I also don't know. The third person says, no. Okay, let's parse this out. Okay, 3 logicians walk into a bar. Okay, I don't know, maybe I think this is funny, okay? Anyway, so 3 logicians walk into a bar. And when I say jokes, there's also banter. This is an example of an actual joke, but there are also the banter of just as you talk to other people, the observations they make about the world are just so cute and funny. It's cool. But this one's actually a pretty good one. So again, 3 logicians walked into a bar. Do any of you want a drink? The first person said, I don't know. By the way, when you take a math class, the word any is the very special upside down A. Okay? Right? No. No, it's a backwards E. Any is a backwards E. It's a backwards E. Does there exist? Does there exist? Okay? Does there exist? So this question is, the bartender is asking, is there at least one of you who wants a drink? If the first person says, I don't know, you know what that means about the first person wanting a drink? It means the first person doesn't want a drink. Because if the bartender asks, do any of you want a drink? Are there any of you who want a drink? If the first person wanted a drink, the answer is called yes. Yeah? But he said, I don't know. That means the first person doesn't want a drink. So the second person also says, I don't know. You know what that means about the second person wanting a drink? Also no, doesn't want a drink. So the third person, well, in this particular joke, the third person doesn't want a drink, but doesn't say, I don't know. You know why the third person could just say no? It's because the third person already knows the first 2 said no. The first 2 don't want a drink and knows that they don't want a drink, so all 3 of them don't want a drink. So the question of, are there any of you who want a drink? No. Okay, anyway, enough of that joke. All right, let's keep going. Next question, anything online? Online. No, nothing online. So I saw another person who wanted to come up from there. Yep, come down. And I see some hands there. We'll just keep going for a little bit more. Yep.
Hello, I'm Rolik, an engineering student. Disclaimer, I arrived late, so I don't know if you already talked about this or not. But my question is, in the recent advancements of technology, and particularly in AI, like ChatGPT, for example, students can just search almost any math problem and AI would solve it for them. Where do you stand on this?
Okay, wait. Wait, one more thing. I realized I didn't answer the second part of the question. Second part of the question is, will you write a book? The answer is, I will not do that anytime soon because I'm still busy doing stuff. But we live in a world today where everything gets recorded on YouTube anyway. So there's already like all these patchworks of various things I've done, so I'm not worrying about that for a long time. But now going on to this thing about ChatGPT 3. Your question is, what do I think of people just using ChatGPT 3 to do homework or do actual other work?
Your personal opinion, like for example, are you scared where in the future most students will just use AI instead of mastering the math topics itself?
Okay, well, most people use the AI instead of mastering the math topics because of ChatGPT 3. By the way, ChatGPT 3 is an amazing invention. Have you tried looking at it? I made an account. It's great. It's great. I asked it to write a Harvard admission essay, and it did. I did that because I was talking to our admissions department, or one of our scholarship selection committees, and I was telling them, be very careful of all of these student essays, because yeah, maybe a lot of student essays will be written by this thing in the future, so you can't really use the student essays to make decisions, okay? And we were amazed. I was just explaining this also a few days ago in Hong Kong. I was meeting with one of my friends, a professor, and when I told him about ChatGPT-3, he said, wait. So he's Chinese. His English is not super great grammar. He said, wait, can ChatGPT-3 write the letters of recommendation? Because he has to write letters of recommendation, right? So we tried it. I said, please write a letter of recommendation. I have an account. The account is free. So I just said, okay, please write letter of recommendation for... Let's just do it. Okay. ChatGPT-3. This time I will share the screen because we will not need this. And this will unfortunately be the last thing that we do because unfortunately the time is reaching to the end, right? So I'm going to stop. No, right, I know. I leave this here and let's get a ChatGPT-3. Take that away. ChatGPT-3. I wonder if it'll ask me to log in again. And the only reason I'm saying that is because I am coming from Philippines now. Oh no, it wants me to verify that I'm human. Isn't this really funny? ChatGPT-3 asked to verify that I'm human. Anyway, okay, I'm logging in now. So I'm not sharing the screen yet because I need to type in my password. And I had to press the button saying I'm not a robot. Oh no, select all squares with motorcycles. Why can't ChatGPT-3 do this for me? Oh my gosh, this must be it knows I'm in the Philippines because it has like the motorcycle on one side of the car. Anyway. Yeah, okay, got through. Now I need to enter my password. That means I need to look up my password, which is why I'm not sharing the screen. Come on. And I'm going to say some fun stuff about ChatGPT-3, don't worry. Okay, copy, go, paste. Good, now I'm in, now I can go actually share the screen. Go, continue please. Share screen. Share screen. That one. No video clip, no sound. Yeah, and this is worth knowing that this exists. Oh yes, we need to not do offensive things. Okay, good. ChatGPT-3. So, do you all see something there? I'm sorry if it's a little blurry, but let's do this. Oh, I bet I can talk into this too. Hear me now? Can you hear me? Test. Okay, no, it's not connected. That's fine. We'll just use this. I'll just type with one hand. So, okay, well, I'll type with both hands, and then you'll see it come through. Oh, you can't read what I'm writing. Let me see if this is plugged in. That's plugged in. Don't know why that's not sending audio. Guess I'll just, please, I'll just tell you what I'm typing. Please write a letter of recommendation for Thomas Smith for master's program in AI. He was an international math. How do I do this? I want to be able to read this. Okay, let's do this. Math Olympiad. Somehow I think it'd be faster if I don't have to hold this. Let's do this. Oh yeah. Oh, that's the easiest way. Thank you so much. Because then I can go way faster. So thank you so much. Yeah. Okay, he was an international math Olympiad gold medalist. Please explain what that is. That will make him really creative, which is important to understanding how to do deep learning. Explain why deep learning is important. Recommend that he is accepted with high confidence. Hit enter. Okay, thank you. An error occurred. Oh no, I know what's going on. Maybe you need to connect through some kind of a VPN or something here. Is that right? Oh, that's too bad. So it's blocked for you guys. I remember in China what I had to do is that in China I had to, no, let me try one more thing. Okay, let's try something else. So in China what I had to do is I had to actually do this by connecting through a different computer. So I'm now connecting through the CMU Math department. Let's see if this works. Firefox. So let's try another thing. Not now. IP address. Don't worry, I won't need to type again. I'll copy paste this time. Yep. And what I'm doing right now is I'm just trying to see if I can get Firefox to come through. And then this will tell you the value of a VPN. Okay, so let's see. Let's share this one instead. Stop share. I want to instead share screen Firefox. That's just because my Firefox, I'm using what's called a VPN. So now let's go to OpenAI chat. GPT-3. Okay, let's try. And I know I'm over time, but I know that over here there's not a ding ding bell, so that's why I'm okay. Otherwise I wouldn't. What? Problem loading page? Oh. That's weird. Let's try it again. Maybe it's because I did the wrong thing. Here it is. Page not found. Wait, let me try again. There was maybe a bad link. Chat GPT-3. Let's try again. Okay, this should do it. Seems a bit slow. Isn't redirecting properly. I wonder if their site is down. GPT-3 demo. Oh. Okay, that's really disappointing. So let's just go back and see. OpenAI, introducing chat. Let's try this. And if this doesn't work, then it means that their website might actually be down right now. So, oh, maybe that's it. Something's happening. Connection is secure. Yay! Oh, good, we're here. Okay, let's try this again. So, are you able to see something? Yes, you are. No, I'll copy paste, don't worry. Thank you. Yep. Thank you so much for helping last time. Paste. Same thing, write letter of recommendation. Go. Yes, dear admissions committee, I am writing to wholeheartedly recommend Thomas Smith for the master's program in, I can't read this, in artificial intelligence at your esteemed institution. As an international math Olympiad gold medalist, Thomas has demonstrated exceptional aptitude and drive in the field of mathematics, which is a crucial foundation for success in the rapidly evolving field of AI. The International Math Olympiad is a prestigious annual competition that brings together the top high school math students from around the world to solve challenging problems. Okay, do you see what happened? It actually even looked up what the International Math Olympiad was. Did you see the length of the prompt I gave it? I was just like, yeah, explain what this thing is. Okay, and again, I'm sorry it's blurry. The way to solve this would be to zoom in. Does anyone know how to zoom in on Firefox? What do you press? Control plus? No, that didn't work. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I don't usually use this Firefox, so that's why I don't know. Oh, I see. Bigger. Oh, nice and big. Can you read now? Well, let's get rid of this thing. How do I make this thing go away? Oh, I can't. But anyway, you can see, it's actually pretty good. It's pretty good, right? So actually this friend of mine has a new way to write letters of recommendation. But now, okay, what do I want to say about this point? By the way, let's go deeper. Do you know what this actually does? So this thing it's interesting. What this ChatGPT-3 does is it knows what words sound good when you put them next to each other, and it knows how to flow them together well. It also knows that International Math Olympiad, it doesn't know the concept, but it has read like 800 gigabytes or something of text, and it knows that the words about International Math Olympiad and describe it usually go around the description. It is basically good at plugging in and substituting one level into a formula. But I've had friends from Math Olympiad who have asked ChatGPT-3 what's bigger, 1/3 or 1/4, and it very confidently explained that 1/4 is bigger than 1/3 because 4 is bigger than 3. So the point is, actually ChatGPT-3 cannot do your real math homework. It can do the plug into a formula math homework because it sees examples of plugged into formula stuff. But once there's anything conceptual, actually it has huge trouble. That is why the last job that ChatGPT-3 will replace is called math. But lots of other things, you know. For example, I was talking to another friend, and the other friend was running a department and had marketing people. And he asked the marketing people, can you just use ChatGPT-3 to write our blog articles faster? The marketing people were like, okay. And then they said, wait, our jobs. Wait, so you can just tell it, write a blog post with 10 paragraphs about this, and this, and it comes out? This is what you should think about. So math will be fine, but think about what this does to everything else. Yeah.
Actually, sir, there's a thread in Twitter, like a math professor from US asked ChatGPT about a certain word problem, like a grade 7 word problem, and then it projected the wrong answer. But after the tweet trended, when others tried that same problem, it then projected the right answer. So I think the software developers are continuously updating their wrong answers in mathematics. So in the future, don't you really think that such AI can replace teachers with this kind of momentum?
So I think it can replace the 7th grade math problem if the math problem is a substitute things in problem. It will have a hard time as the problems require more thinking. And that's why what I teach 6th and 7th graders is how to think. Right? I think that that's the last part that gets replaced. That's what we should be teaching. I do not think ChatGPT-3 will replace the teachers anytime soon. Yeah, but it's interesting stuff. Interesting stuff.
Sir, last question. Would you recommend for low level, like youngsters doing math, would you recommend them to use such AI, or would you say limit AI such as ChatGPT for higher level students only?
Oh, it's very hard to limit people of anything. You just saw that somehow the ChatGPT-3 was supposed to be limited to United States, and it's not anymore, right? So human beings, if you need to limit, you cannot limit a human being. And if you have a VPN app, no problem, all right? That's all I'm trying to say. Limit is very hard to deal with. Right now in the United States, the biggest challenge is that all the high school students are using it to write their English homework. The English homework. Write an essay about William Shakespeare, right? Like, poof. Done. So I would say what you should advise your young students, your younger people, is think carefully. Why are you doing your English homework? It's so that someday when you have to actually write something that you don't have a ChatGPT-3, you'll survive. So that's the reason why you do it. You can't limit because they will find ways around it. All you can do is explain why sometimes you don't use a calculator. The same thing, right? You use calculator sometimes. You don't use sometimes. Why not? You don't use sometimes because you're trying to learn how to actually do it. That's why you do it without calculator. And in real life today, if I need to do calculation, I use calculator. Yes, thank you. Thank you, everyone. I'll give it back to you.
Thank you, Professor Po-Shen Loh. That was really a very dynamic engagement that we've had with the audience here, and I'm sure with the online participants. So let's give him another round of applause. Thank you for sharing all your insights about teaching, learning, about AI, and exposing us to the new things that